What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Sort of a review video for the channel today. I just want to talk about the bike here. Well, I've already done a video on this. It's 2019 Kawasaki. I've done a video on it, so I'll put a link if you want to know kind of more about the bike itself. But this is not about the bike. It's about my rear passenger setup here for long distance riding. So if anybody has a bike like this, it's a struggle. I mean, you probably know it's a struggle trying to do a two-up riding on this long distance. When I bought the bike, it was for work use, going back and forth to work. I didn't know my wife was going to want to ride as much as she does. Well, only during the winter. She doesn't ride with me during the summer, but now we're getting in the winter, she rides more. So whether I keep this bike or not, I don't know. The bike might go away. Maybe I'll go and get a cruiser or something. But I've had the bike for almost 3 years now, coming up on 3 years. So we've done quite a bit of riding, but not terribly long. So yesterday we did our longest trip, a little over 500 miles round trip. So of course the biggest challenge is you're gonna go far. You need to bring things with you, you know. I used to ever carry a backpack, but that's murder on the back. You know, you got a heavy backpack, that's murder on the back. So the saddlebags eliminate the need for a backpack pretty much. And these are Sedici saddlebags. I've had them for even before I had the bike. I had this on other bikes, so it's got decent side pocket. It's got decent storage. I mean, it's pretty deep on the inside, so it's got quite a bit. You can fit quite a bit of stuff in here. So one of the challenges with a saddlebag on a sport bike is they want to lean down in. You know, they want, because there's nothing here on the side. You know, the way that the rear is shaped, there's nothing here to support it. So that's always the biggest challenge on these bikes, is how do you do the saddlebag setup. So this is many iterations. This has been the best one that I've done since I found these brackets here on Amazon. They were like 18 bucks. It's called a universal saddlebag support, something like that. It bolts into where your foot pegs go, and it has these bolts here, and these bolts they're not great. I was kind of, you know, down to the wire. I had to leave, so I would either replace these bolts with something better, or actually maybe push these together and weld it. You know, grind all the paint off, push it together, weld it. Because I mean, the material, the steel is pretty good. It's just where it bolts, it wants to articulate all the time, and trying to keep it tight. Sometimes you can see it's sometimes a challenge. So it actually stayed like this the whole trip, so it didn't move at all. So, but the bolts it has nylock nuts, but they're terrible. They don't hold it tight. I don't know why. So maybe better bolts or weld it. Again, this is universal, so it's supposed to be for, I don't know, probably mainly cruisers, I would assume. But back here I got this piece of all thread in here, and in here I put nylock nuts. Oops, sorry, focus. So in here I put a nylock nut on the end so it wouldn't work its way off, and then just a regular nut here on the inside. The camera will focus, sorry. And then I just ran a zip tie. That's just to keep it stiff, because, you know, you're going that long distance there, so naturally when you put weight in these, it's going to want to fold in, right? In the past I've had a piece of aluminum bar here, a piece of aluminum bar that I used to put across here, so that worked okay. But having this is a lot better. Having something to actually zip tie it to that's solid. The aluminum bar did okay, but this is much better. So and this whole setup actually did very well for 500 miles, so no issues at all. It stayed straight for the most part, for how I had it. So, and I also pushed them back further. So if you've ever put them on, you might notice how far back it is. So normally this would go here. There's a little channel that's basically already built into the plastic. That's where it would normally come through for a saddlebag. And then there's also one back here. So I moved it back that way there's more leg room here, because when this is all the way forward, the front of this nearly covers that foot peg. So you have to bend your leg around like this, and it's not very comfortable. So I decided to try to push it back. It worked out perfectly. So the other thing is the seat. So the seat is the ongoing battle with, I guess, any motorcycle. All the seats are terrible. If you want a good seat, you got to spend a lot of Corbin money. If you know what Corbins are, you got to spend Corbin money to get a good seat for these bikes. So I don't know if I want to keep this bike. I might get rid of it. I found this though. It's actually for a bicycle. So I went to the motorcycle shop and I tried every seat that you can get at the Airhawks, the Wild Ass, Saddlemen. They're none of them are good. They're all terrible. They're all terrible. So I was in Walmart and I saw this. This is more like a memory foam, as you can see. So when you touch like the Saddlemans, the ones that are gel, they're like hard. And they create some nasty pressure points. So this one here, I figured, well, I mean, it's 20 bucks at Walmart. It's a Blackburn. It did surprisingly well, actually. I was able to ride slightly longer than the stock seat. I mean, the stock seat has foam in it. I talked about that in another video. I did take this cover off this stock seat, cut out the factory foam, and I put a piece of softer foam in there. But with the softer foam, I can get an hour out of it. I was able to get like an hour and a half. Before, I just needed to jump off, take a little stretch, 5 minutes, jump back on, good to go. So I guess, I mean, for 20 bucks, it worked better than like the $100 Saddleman or $300 Wild Ass or Airhawk or any of those. So yeah, for 20 bucks, I mean, it works. So back here is my wife's setup. So this is just a gel pad you get at Walmart. This is for cars. You can find these at any Walmart. She says it's okay. It does tend to, it does slide, so you want to make sure that you try to fasten it down. I have these straps here from some other cushion. So originally I used to wrap this around the whole seat. And the problem with that, wrapping it around, sorry, I'm going to try to put the camera on the tripod here so I'm not moving all around here. So the problem with wrapping it around is it wants to slide down all the time. So I came up with this idea. Put the camera on the tripod. Sorry guys. So I figured out the other day to just wrap this behind here. So I have this seat support that I made. So by crisscrossing this and wrapping it around, it doesn't slide anymore. Every time you come to a stop, the whole seat wants to slide. So by doing this X pattern, it kept it from sliding. So it's just a giant seat pad. It probably doesn't work as good as this one, but it does okay, I guess. So let's talk about the seat. This is the third iteration of this seat. I talked about this in the other video that I did on the bike. This is custom designed by me. As you can see, the back shape of that. So what I did was I bought a second seat from eBay. And you can get these Rear Ninja seats cheap, like 40 bucks. So like this is the one that came with it. This is the stock one. which is, you know, super uncomfortable. I bought another one of these for 30 bucks on eBay and basically created this Frankenstein. I also got another front seat, and I just married the two together. So if you can see here on the front seat, you can see that shape back there is the same shape as up there. You can see back there it's the same shape. So basically, I don't have any videos on this because every time I do it, it's just a nightmare. But basically, I left this seat pan. So underneath this is this seat pan, and then the front seat I cut in half. And so I took the back half of the front seat and I bolted it to here, so extending it out and making it wider. Okay. So the issue was, originally I did that, filled it in with foam, and then this part was left basically untouched. It still had this steep angle to it. So the issue is you really want to get rid of that steep angle. So we've done some rides, maybe 100-mile or whatever, and that angle right there is a big problem, because you're always wanting to slide down. So right about here is where that angle normally is. So from here it goes, it's this part, okay? So it goes straight down there. And so your seating area kind of goes away, and your body's always wanting to slide down. At least that's what my wife told me. It's always wanting to slide down. So how do you get rid of that? That was the big problem. And I spent the last year pretty much trying to figure out, how do I get rid of that? You know, how do you get rid of that? So what I came up with, you know, I started watching some other videos on how seats and stuff are made. Get rid of that, sorry. How seats and stuff are made. You know, and they show processes with foam. So I ended up coming up with the idea of spray foam. And I kind of had that idea for a while. I never tried to do it. So over at Walmart, they have this cheap, it's like $4 a can. I was buying the stuff from like Lowe's and Home Depot. It's like $15 a can. So for experimenting for $4 a can, I ended up filling in this bottom part with foam. So what I did was I took a piece of rigid foam, because I wanted it to be level, right? So I took a piece of rigid foam, I sat it on the top of the seat pan, right where the flat part and the angles start. And then I put some painter's tape around it and then filled that void in with foam. Spray foam, let it sit overnight. And in the morning came out and it was still a little bit of an angle. So I still wanted it to go higher. So it probably only came to like right here. So I still needed another inch and a half. So I put another piece of rigid foam on top of that and more spray foam in between. So to try to get it as level as possible. It's not perfectly level. I mean, the way the bike is shaped, that's as good as it's going to get, essentially. And then after it all dried, I just used the sander to form it. And then put foam back in there. So the original foam went back in. And then I do have a piece of softer foam. And this foam here is fine for short rides. You know, you're looking at an hour or less. You don't even need that seat pad. It's pretty soft for short rides. So it's just when you go on the longer rides, you want something a little extra. So, I mean, you can see how wide that seat is compared to stock. So it gives you a much larger seating area. You know, it's a little bit more comfortable and everything. And then also I talked about in that other video, with take this off the tripod, the foot pegs. So those came off a Kawasaki, I think it was a KLR, like a KLR 650. It makes it way longer than the stock ones. So the stock ones come to like here, I think. And they do make peg extensions for the stock ones. And I actually they're $150. So I got these locally from some guy for like 20 bucks. But with the peg extensions on for the stock pegs, stock brackets, they go in here. So you take out this foot peg and it drops it down, I believe 3 inches or something like that. And then you put this down. So you install it in the bracket down. So I made my own version of that as a test. I took just some square tubing. Took some square tubing with the stock pegs, not the the stock bracket. Put a piece of square tubing in here on the stock one, brought it down. I think it was 3 inches is what the company does, just to kind of see. And then I kind of jimmy rigged this into the bottom of that square tubing so we can kind of just test it out. And my wife said it wasn't down far enough. So if I would have spent $150 on those peg extensions, they probably would not have worked. Being only coming down like 3 inches. So these come down way further. I don't even know how long these are. But they come down way further. So maybe 8 inches, 10 inches, something like that. Compared to well, the stock ones are probably here. So another, yeah, maybe 6 inches or whatever. So it brings it down a lot further where your legs are not, your knees aren't up in your chest like on the stock ones. So it's a little bit more comfortable, kind of stretches your legs out a little bit more. So yeah. So if you have, oh, and then on the backrest. So this is a new backrest design. I was trying to find, this is, I think it's 1/8 inch steel, and the original one was this real thin steel, and I couldn't find any 1/8 inch steel anywhere. And I just found that piece at Ace Hardware the other day, just a couple days ago. So I mean, I tore the whole seat apart, redesigned everything, put this back on the tripod. Let me go show you the original piece that I had on there. So I don't know how thick, oh sorry, I don't know how thick this is, but this was the original one that I had on there. So you can see this bend in here. There was another video where a guy actually made this. That's where I got this idea. So basically this goes down inside the seat and it bolts down here. So right here where these 4 holes are, it already comes like that. So basically I utilized those holes and I made a metal bracket for here. So this would go on the inside on top of this, and then a piece of steel here, and then sandwich them together. So like that, and that's what creates your backrest. And this comes out of the back there. So it bolts in, yeah, it bolts in somewhere around here. So it bolts in somewhere around there. So that steel was way too thin, and I tried to reinforce it with another piece, and it was always real kind of flimsy. You can't really tell, but if you're trying to lean against that, it was real flimsy. So I finally found a piece of this this 1/8 inch, I believe it's 1/8 inch. It's super thick, so you can really lean against it. And you can see under here, so this is the seat. This is what the driver's seat looks like. That's what we were just discussing. And that goes all the way down into there and bolts in. And I got some more, you might be able to see some more spray foam in there. I probably should have filled this void with spray foam, but I might. I might. I was thinking that maybe it would give it some, like a shock, act like a shock. So it's just not stiff, so that's why I didn't put it in there. But this thing is so stiff. It's so much better than the stock one. I forgot to cover this, so this was exposed. So when we were out riding, I just covered this because We do have a we do have a hydration backpack that we carry sometimes. So that was tearing up the hydration backpack. So I just happen to have this piece of felt in there and some zip ties, and so I'm gonna fix this, make it better, cover this steel up. But we were getting down to the wire, so and then I made this. But me and my wife were talking the other day. I might make this whole thing a backrest. I might make that whole thing a backrest, just so it's not just on the top. Because even if you're leaning against this, it's kind of uncomfortable. So this whole thing will probably become a backrest at some point. If I keep the bike, I don't know. The bike might go away. So might go cruiser, since she's wanting to ride with me all the time, which is fine, but kind of sucks when you buy a bike and then realize that it's not working for you. So this is the best attempt that we could come up with to make this work for those longer rides. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So I'm going to tear all this apart because I got to use it to go back and forth to work, so I don't keep it like this. So I wanted to do this real fast before I started taking all this apart and putting it back to normal. So that's all I got for you. If you got any questions about the setup or anything, let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.